What's good with it, BlakGooseTV family, man? Double salute as always. It's your boy Fluence Boxing back in the building once again with some more Fluence Boxing news. Look, as always, I'm gonna be absolutely 110% with my people, with my family members when it comes to this particular topic in boxing. Look, this is more of a question posed to y'all, family. I'm not even trying to go crazy into detail when it comes to this statement coming from Eddie Hearn. I'm not even trying to dissect it. I'm not trying to, get to the specifics, the nitty gritty. I don't care about none of that. This is really just a question posed to y'all, to all the Terence Crawford supporters, to all the Terence Crawford haters, to all of those who are in between, to those who don't really even care, whatever the case may be, wherever you fall when it comes to this particular fight and this particular fighter. When we're talking about Terence Crawford versus Avanesyan, I want to know if you agree with Eddie Hearn, if you disagree with him, or if you in the middle. This is why I need to get back to doing the community board, because I know y'all going to show love here, but y'all really show love on the community board. So I promise y'all, man, one of my main goals when it comes to this channel was to get back to updating the community board so y'all can feel like y'all really have a say so when it comes to a lot of these topics. But until we get back into the swing of things when it comes to that, I'm going to be posing this question to y'all. As you can see, it's coming from boxingnews24.com. As you guys can see when it comes to the title of this video, Eddie Hearn is claiming, saying, proposing, alleging Crawford versus Avanesyan won't do not even 10,000 buys. So he's not even saying it won't do more than 10,000 buys. It won't do a little bit close to 10,000. He's saying it's not even going to hit the number of 10,000 pay-per-view buys. That's what Eddie Hearn is claiming. Now, I don't know if this is clickbait. I don't know if it's just over exaggeration when it comes to the title. I don't know if there was like some nuance, or if there was obviously, like, we got to understand the context of where this quote is coming from and what he was being asked. Like, I don't know none of it because I haven't not read the article. I haven't heard the statement. I'm just going off of what this particular title was saying. So before we get into the actual details of it, so we can have a more better understanding of why Eddie Hearn said it, even though I have a good feeling that Eddie Hearn definitely did say that any minute. What do you guys think? Like, what's your guys' personal opinion? Do you think Crawford is going to get, do you think Crawford versus Avanesyan will do more than 10,000 buys? Do you think it will do less than 10,000 buys, or do you think it'll do right exactly 10,000 buys? What are you guys' thoughts? Who do you agree with? Is it Eddie Hearn do you agree with, or you think Eddie Hearn is just straight up outright hating? So make sure y'all go ahead and drop that down below in the comments, because I want to know what y'all think about that. While you're doing that, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, be part of the family, notification gang, check out the Twitch, that's Fluence TV. But now let's figure out why Eddie Hearn said what he said, the reasoning behind it. Let's get the full quote. Let's not go on what ifs anymore. Let's not go on, what I'm saying, hearsay, all that good stuff. Let's go straight to the horse's mouth. So as y'all can see, Crawford versus Avanesyan won't do 10,000 buys. Eddie Hearn. Let's see why he's saying it. Promoter Eddie Hearn predicts that this Saturday's Terence Crawford versus David Avanesyan fight on BLK Prime pay-per-view won't bring in even 10K pay-per-view buys. Hearn feels that the WBO welterweight champion Crawford isn't a big enough star for a fight against Avanesyan to bring in tons of pay-per-view buys, and he's not helping himself by his inactivity. Crawford hasn't fought since November 2021, and he has fought only once a year since 2020. With that inactivity alone, Crawford will have problems selling a pay-per-view against the little-known 34-year-old Avanesyan. Also, Crawford has never established himself as a pay-per-view attraction in his past attempts against Sean Porter and Amir Khan. Hearn feels that the reported $10 million that Crawford is making for the Avanesyan fight will lead to him wanting even more money for a fight against Errol Spence, asking for $20 million, which will make it difficult to make that fight happen. When asked if he believes he could promote Crawford, Hearn said not for that kind of money he's getting for the Avanesyan fight. At 35, Crawford is a little too long in the tooth for Hearn to try and build him from the ground up into a major star, because it would take too long. What U.S. fighter have you built from the ground up, Eddie Hearn? Let's just be 100 with you. Like, I love Eddie Hearn. I've been following boxing for a good amount of time. Some longer than others, others shorter than others. That's fine. Wherever you stand and however you feel about, my perspective, but let's be real. Eddie Hearn, I've been a big fan of you. If there's one thing that you haven't done is built up a U.S. star. You have not done that when it comes to boxing. You have not built up any U.S. boxing stars. Majority of the U.S. boxing guys that you're trying to build up, usually fumble the bag and you ruin their career. You pay them good, but in the long run, Tevin Farmer, Demetrius Andrade, I don't want to keep talking about it, but anyways, if Crawford is only willing to fight for huge amounts of money annually, he won't be active enough for Hearn to turn him into a star. For Hearn to rapidly make a star out of Crawford, he might need to fight at least 3 times a year, and that wouldn't be doable if he's asking for $10 million to fight French contenders like Avanesyan. It's just about money. You look at Terence Crawford, he's making $10 million to fight David Avanesyan. If it's $60, it won't do 10,000 buys. If you're getting paid that much to fight Avanesyan, you want $20 million to fight Spence, or 25, which is still too much money, so everyone's going mad. The problem is it's out. If it's out there, I say it's not the right commercial price or the commercial value, but if it's out there, it's just madness. I just feel like you're going to be inactive. These guys are so inactive. Errol Spence now, when is he going to fight? He's going to be March against Keith Thurman or something like that. What? And that's what is speculated. February and March for the. It's looking like February most likely for the Thurman versus Errol Spence fight, which has been moved from it's supposedly happening this year. So if Errol Spence is looking to fight Keith Thurman February and March, and you have Terence Crawford fighting as soon as December of this weekend, do you really think Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence is going to happen next year? Let's be honest. There's a reason why Terence Crawford is wrapping up his shit talking with Jermell Charlo, because I think it's more feasible to see Crawford fighting the winner of Jermell versus Tim Tszyu than him actually fighting Errol Spence next year. So not for that sort of money, said Hearn when asked if he can promote Terence Crawford, but at the same time, he's an unbelievable fighter. The way you promote a fighter is you build them. You have to get a hold of them early enough. Diego Pacheco is a good example. He turns pro at 17, started boxing him on the big shows. He looks good. He's starting to knocking out people. He's from South Central LA. Then you fight him on a card. All of a sudden, you hear a much bigger round of applause when he walks in. That happened about a year ago. Not every show like tonight, and people walk away tonight, then people walk away tonight. Did you see that, Diego Pacheco? Yeah, he's someone we can get behind. He's 21. When he gets to 23, he'll be headlining in LA, and he'll be selling out the old StubHub. That's how you build a fighter. Terence Crawford is now 35, correction, 35. He's a brilliant fighter, maybe pound for pound. But I feel they should have built him more. It's difficult because you want to fill arenas with him in Nebraska, but you can't generate a great gate you need in Nebraska. But for me, visually, when you turn on the TV and you see a guy who's selling 10,000 plus, that's when you're building a star. It's the same with Deontay Wilder in Alabama. When they went there and done that, it's wild. Americans and everyone will tune in to see. Like tonight, if you tune in tonight, you go, wow, it's wild in there. Great atmosphere. So you're immediately engaged. If you turn on somewhere and it's empty and you think this guy is no star. So building a fighter is not saying you can do it at 34. It's not a lost cause because he's a pound for pound number one. The problem is you have in this country is that Terence Crawford could walk down Glendale in the mall or in Phoenix and wherever, and no one would have a clue who he is, and he's a pound for pound one. At one point, that was Deontay Wilder's problem, but as you can see now with the Tyson Fury trilogy, has changed. I find that unbelievable. No, it's not good for the sport. I think it's a mix of laziness. I also think boxing has a tough sport because there are so many sports ahead of it in the pecking order when it talks about the U.S. If there's a British champion in England who walks to a shopping mall, they get mobbed because boxing is probably the number 2 or number 3 sport. So that kind of like Eddie Hearn, like I actually agree with a lot of the things that he's saying, but it's almost like you have to kind of cancel out his reasoning why the 10,000 buys happens, because it's like at one point you're arguing, well, if I had Terence Crawford at an earlier age, I could probably build him up, but it's too little too late. But then at the same time, you're talking about how the U.S. market is completely different from the UK market when it comes to there being all these other sports ahead of boxing. You're basically kind of saying you wouldn't be able to build them up in the U.S. And it's like, that's proof because you have not gotten any U.S. Boxers from a young age or from a specific age and built them up to be stars in the U.S. You've never done that. You've gotten guys from the U.S., but ultimately you pay them big bags and they're known in the UK, but you just can't transition it to the US because you don't put on that many US shows. That's just is what it is. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and pose this question to you guys. Do you guys agree with Eddie Hearn that this fight won't do 10,000 buys? Do you disagree that it will do more, or are you in the middle of it? Let me know below. Drop it in the comments as always. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not part of the family. Much love to the people on Sports Niggas Side of the Game. I'll be back with more boxing. Stay blessed, not stressed. Much love to the people.